All right, welcome to another episode of Fullcourt Passport. I'm Ric Bucher. That is Bostjan Nachbar, and our special guest, Bronx native, Tennessee alum, All SEC, 2019 FIBA Champion League Final Four MVP, 2023 ABA League Finals MVP, and now Barca guard standout, a Euroleague legend. Kevin Punter. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you. That's not a bad list right there, man. It's not
No,
bad.
hey, look, the resume is long.
It's not too bad, man. It's not too bad. I'll take
Yeah.
it. Glad to be
Um, Kevin, just because like I mentioned before we started recording, a lot of U.S. fans, U.S. people tune in and they're learning more about European basketball and about EuroLeague basketball. I'll start with maybe the most obvious question, which is, how would you describe one of the biggest rivalries in basketball in Europe? Red Star against Partizan. You having played in Partizan before, how would you describe that to somebody that hasn't seen it, especially not live, and you having played there and being successful there and really making a mark in one of the
Yeah.
biggest, most difficult rivalries in the world, I would say.
I always say you gotta physically go and be there. In my opinion, you can see it on the internet. You can hear your friends speak about it, coaches, whatever. But I feel like that's one of the rivalries that you have to physically have 10 toes in the arena, whether it's at Red Star or it's at Partizan, to really understand the magnitude of what people feel and how intense on and off the court that is. A lot of things have nothing to do with basketball. So it's a lot of moving. It's a lot of moving pieces. You got the crowd. You got a lot of things that got nothing to do with basketball. Then you still have to stay focused and execute on basketball, which is the main thing. So it's a lot of moving pieces in those derbies.
What
So
would you compare it to that you have experienced elsewhere or previously? Does it compare to anything else?
no, it doesn't. To be honest with you, I mean,
What's the closest thing?
okay, I mean, you got the other rivalries. You got Pana,
Right.
Olympiacos.
But I
You
mean
got
outside of EuroLeague, like
outside of
some other
Euroleague,
basketball or sports experience that you've
no,
had
no
that
comparison.
compares to some of the cauldrons that you've been in, the EuroLeague
No comparison.
hotbeds that you've been in.
No comparison. I'm sorry. It is Partizan and Red Star is beating any other sport by a landslide.
Hmm.
Wow.
You could go Lakers, Celtics is beating that by a landslide. You could go even when the Cavs was playing the Warriors at that time when they was going back to landslide because there's so many other variables that have nothing to do with basketball that plays a toll on basketball. It's
Yeah.
not like that in any other series in the NBA, NFL, MLB. Doesn't really. It's not like that. So it's a lot of other things that's, let's say, not important, but it plays a role in the game.
What are those other? What are some of those other things? I assume it's cultural, it's history. Like there's a lot of things, but what specifically are you talking about that brings that intensity to the court?
Just the build up, just the fans and the people adding expectations. People's livelihood is with these teams and with these clubs. Even before we got there, and before players get there, like they live and breed. These teams, these cultures. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, it's a lot of other things that I don't want to speak on that plays a major role
Yeah.
in who wins the game and who, it's just a lot of other things that if you play in Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it
Mhm.
makes it dope, but it makes it also that much difficult at the same time. So,
Hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
you got to
What
be.
what was your first taste of just general in EuroLeague or in Europe, the atmosphere the fans can create, because you kind of built your way up in Europe and build up your career in Europe to who you are. But when was the first time that you played a game or played in the league that you said like, wow, this is different. Like people here really care about
Yeah.
result, about the team, about winning, losing, and so on.
It was it was my second year as a professional. I had just got the Ike. I had left Poland.
Hmm.
I on my contract, just got the Ike, and we played Olympiacos. We played Olympiacos in the Greek Cup final, and that was like, okay, wow, like that was. And then that same year, we went to the Final Four Champions League, and we was home and we hosted it, and that's when all the Ike fans filled up the old Waka. They
Wow.
filled the entire
Wow.
fans, and we ended up winning everything. And it's like a picture I got. I was thinking of standing on the table like with my arms out. It was like fans everywhere. It was dope, but that was the first time it was just like it's different here because I was still trying to find myself in Europe. I was still going through some other personal things at that time, just with trying to figure Europe out. So I didn't really understand a lot of things just with the culture, with the basketball, as much as I do now. So
Does,
You
does, sorry, Rick. Does Ike do the thing where when the game starts, they throw all these like white?
they did not do that when I was there. They didn't do
But
that.
now they do it, right?
I'm not too, or Aries, one of the, I think Aries did it not too long
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
all right? What are they throwing? The white
Like,
what?
Paper
I
towels,
think it's
like towels or like
yeah,
something.
like toilet paper roll. I don't know what you're gonna
Okay.
call it, but it's like hundreds of them. I'll show you the clip, Rick. It's
Okay.
impressive, and it disturbs the game for like 5 minutes because they have to,
They have to clean it up.
clean the
It's all
court
on the
and
court.
everything. So, yeah, but anyway, go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it sounds like toilet paper rolls. I think I've seen that
Yeah.
at a couple of events.
Yeah, yeah.
Who or what your career? I mean, you really built a career in Europe, starting from the ground floor and now being in the penthouse. Who or what gave you an understanding of what it took to be successful as an American in EuroLeague?
My agents, to be honest with you, and it may sound crazy, but because you hear agents and you just hear like, yeah, just the business side and this and that, but like my agents, they really, really like installed like what Europe was and what you can do and how it can change your life, So I always thank my agents for just kind of giving me the knowledge because I didn't know nothing about anything with Europe. I was considered an NBA guy, I was doing what I was doing at SEC, things like that, got hurt,
Mhm.
whatever the case was. So my mind was just NBA. And then my agent was really the one to kind of really like give me the knowledge on the background and how much money you can make in Europe, how you could change your life, what's the highest level in Europe, who's playing at these highest levels, and because I had no clue. So I really just thank my agents, just
And
kind
that's
of,
Todd Ramsar.
yep, Ty Ramazar, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my agent, and then I was working with him, and then obviously I had to go to Europe. So then my agent now, he's a Greek agent. His name is Harris. He really gave me a lot of knowledge and a lot of game on how this thing goes and how it works. And I kind of took the blueprint, and we kind of started to just build from our first year. So it was difficult, but
Hmm.
you got to be real strong in this, though. You got to really see the bigger picture,
Now,
So
now, when you're mentioning the bigger picture and the opportunities or chasing right opportunities, like did getting the dual citizenship in Serbia like kind of play into that? I mean, you being there so comfortable, let's say, and being almost like well, not almost, but kind of like a home player. How did that come about? And I guess part of it was you being willing also to play for Serbian national team if that ever comes up.
yeah, so the thing with that was I got that when I was at Red Star. I didn't get that from Partizan. So I got that right before COVID had hit us.
Mm-hmm.
I had got that. So I think I was in my maybe fourth year as a professional because I was at Olympiacos with David Black. He had got sick. I had ended up leaving with the Red Star. And then right before COVID, Red Star gave me a passport. Um, and then a season later, I go to Milan, and then the following year, I go to Partizan. So I happened to already have a Serbian passport before I had got to Partizan. So that's kind of like how that worked out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always heard that once you get a passport, you got to play on the national team. But at that point in time, I didn't care. I'm like, that's fine, that's cool. I'm starting to figure the whole European thing out with with the game basketball. So I kind of just was like, I was getting good opportunities. So I'm like, I'm gonna just take it and just keep working, and then
Mm-hmm.
that was it.
From a basketball standpoint, why do you think you've been so successful when a lot of Americans have not? Talented Americans, but they haven't been able to make it work. And you obviously have.
I think the main thing with me is every summer I always, from my rookie year to now, every summer I always look back on what could I improve in, what was said about me that I wasn't good at, and I just attack it every summer. I was a guy that I went home every summer. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't do any of those things. I went straight to the lab, straight to the gym, trying to figure out how to get to the next level, whatever the next level was for me at that point in time in my career. So that's kind of like where my mind was for the last from then till now. Like I'm
Yeah.
kind of was crazy about the game, and I always knew my bigger picture and where I wanted to be in life. You know, obviously with the game of basketball, but in life, you know, so that always stuck with me. So that's kind of what kept me getting to this point. You know, even now, like every time I come home, I don't really go on vacation for real. And people look at me like I'm crazy, but it's like I'm obsessed with kind of improving and getting better
Yeah.
and trying to figure out the next, because there's always something different. You know,
Sure.
like I'm in year 10 and it's still something different for me now. When you think you always got to figure it out, it's like it's something different. You know, so that's the challenging part, but that's the journey of it too. You know, so
Mhm.
that's kind of like where my mindset is still, even at 32 years old. So that's to get me to this point.
At what point did you give up the idea of playing in the NBA and embraced, let me make the most out of what I can as a
Yeah,
EuroLeague player?
like 2 years ago.
Hey, I totally get it. I totally get it. I was the same, Rick. When I came back to Europe and played in EuroLeague, I think up until I was maybe like 34, 33 even, like so even longer than Kevin, I had like hope like maybe
Yeah,
there's gonna be opportunity, maybe, and there were some opportunities, but you're thinking like, man, in EuroLeague, I mean in Europe in general, like it's high pressure, it's a lot of practice, a lot of travel, but man, it's still fun, and the competitiveness always makes sense of going overseas back to the NBA and then it's trying to make your name again and going through all
Sure.
that or possibly
yeah.
getting cut and whatnot.
See,
So
I was willing to do that though,
yeah.
because it was so like NBA.
Mm,
I didn't looked up who was the oldest rookies to ever, you know, like I didn't did all my homework for the most part at that time. And it was like it just never made sense for me to do it because the contracts that was offered, I got offered two different type of contracts in two different parts of my career. I got offered a two-way contract to the Timberwolves. I declined. This was before I took the deal to go to Virtus, and then I got offered a two-way contract to go to the Clippers before I took the deal to go to Partizan. So
mhm.
I've had some offers, but it just didn't make sense. I didn't have
Right.
the leverage, and me understanding the business
Yep.
in the NBA. Where if you have no leverage, you're done. You know
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
teams use it against you to whatever. So I just was like, nah, I'm gonna just keep going to Europe, and then not to maybe 2 years ago, maybe I kind of was just not giving up, but kind of like more at ease with my life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ease,
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna just kind of put that to bed. Not saying it's completely shut, but I'm cool. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all right.
um Maybe Kevin, talk a little bit about the game, how you had to adjust your game to the EuroLeague style, because it is different, and maybe how it is different because some of the angles, some of the gaps that you've seen, some of the situations you've seen in college level, or maybe thinking the way NBA game is played is different in Europe. I think part of it, like Rick mentioned before, some really talented American players didn't make it in Europe or specifically in EuroLeague wasn't because they couldn't adjust to the culture, but it could be also things on the court because the game is so different. Like, how
Yeah,
did you approach that, and how did you find a way to be so successful in this very tough
yeah.
league?
I mean, I consider myself I can score in many different ways. Many, whether it's isolation, pick and roll, catch and shoot, like, and I've shown that, I've proven that. So for me, it makes it a little bit easier for me, depending on who's on my team. Is going to depend on the style of game you'll see more.
Mhm.
So whether it's going to be like right now in Barcelona, I don't have to play as much isolation. And even when I do, I get doubled a lot. So a lot of times I try to be more so off the ball to kind of catch and rip, catch and shoot, and kind of just play off the catch, so off the .5 or whatnot. So it
Mhm.
just depends on your game and how much you're willing to adapt. I think that's the biggest thing. Like most guys don't really know how to adapt, and they need a certain system rather than saying, "Hey, you could kind of plug me in anywhere." And I got so many different styles in my game. I could kind of use this style for this team, or go somewhere else and use, let's say, more on ball style for this team. So it really depends on how much you're willing to adapt and if you can adapt. So I feel like if you not willing to adapt, then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah,
If
I think
you're willing to adapting, you'll be all right.
and I think you said it perfectly fine. I mean, the arsenal that you have is very unique. I have to be honest, because Rick, a couple episodes ago we spoke with Beno Udrich, who's now a coach in the G League team with the Herd, and he talked about the mid range shot and how it's disappeared from basketball. I mean, Kevin, you're still using that in a big way.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
it's not a testament that the more tools you have, basically, the better off you are. And I think
yeah,
EuroLeague and European basketball in specific pushes you to be that. If you want to be successful, you got to have more tools you work with, not just being
yeah,
a very one dimensional player. So
yeah. I agree,
yeah,
definitely.
We also saw you when you're talking about sort of drawing attention off the ball and swinging. We just saw that against Ephes in a.
Yeah,
We should let
yeah,
people know that Kevin is joining us after a tough loss to
yeah.
Ephes on a last second. I'll go ahead and say it. You don't have to. Dubious dubious bucket
yeah,
that
yeah.
ended up in a 1 point loss. But with the pressure that we've talked about, how did you come to handle the pressure of knowing that to stay with a team, to stay employed, like it's different. You have to win and you have to produce in order to keep your spot and keep your place. And you've been doing this for a while now. Like, how did you come to terms with dealing with that pressure?
I mean, I had to deal with that early on. I wasn't the greatest basketball player early on. So early on in my career, I had to always try to. I always had to work my way up, work my way up, work my way up. So I had to always prove myself over and over. Going to prep school, junior college, getting to Tennessee, and starting my professional career. So that's just kind of like that's just my life. That's just what it is. So I'm kind of used to it, but it can still be frustrating. It can be tiring, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm a real focused person and real, goal oriented guy. So it can be extremely frustrating, tiring mentally. But it's how bad you want it for real. I wanted it that bad. So I always tell younger players now, like, if you want it bad, you're gonna figure it out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If you want it that bad, you're gonna figure out a way to get whatever it is. So that's pretty much that was the main thing for me. But like I said, it started early on in my life where I always had to work for every little thing just to get the bare minimum recognition. So that was what that was for me.
Yeah, and I don't know what the exact details of your Barca deal is, but it feels like you've been rewarded, or I don't. Is this the best basketball you've played, or is this the best you've been treated by a particular team? If I'm reading what they've given you as accurate in terms of one of the better deals that you've gotten in your career.
I mean, Barcelona, we locked in. This is yeah, I'm definitely in my prime, playing pretty much the best basketball. Feeling great, to be honest with you. And yeah, it's kind of like where I'm at now. But I'm in a good space. I always say this, like all the stuff I've been through in my life, on and off the court. I feel like this is my entire career is like almost like the biggest reward. Even like the tough times to get to this point, it was all worth it. So like even when I look back and it's like I may not have played the best this month, that month, this week, it's like it's still like to get to this point, to still be consistent every night, being healthy, night in, night out, is still that's the biggest blessing. So I always try to put things in perspective because sometimes I could get out of whack and be in my own head about certain things. So I always try to put things in perspective.
Kevin, before we let you go, maybe you can if you have a favorite experience off the court while playing in Europe. I mean, you moved from a couple of countries, that you mentioned. You've been Poland, Italy, Greece, Serbia, Spain, and obviously visiting all the other countries for games. Has there been any fun experiences, good experience that you say, hey, it's more than just basketball here? Because I know you spoke about how focused you are on playing and improving, but I
Yeah.
hope you took some time also to enjoy life outside of the gym as well.
Nah, for sure. Most definitely. Most definitely. I still fight with that balance. But most definitely though. As I've gotten older in my career, I found better balance with that. When I was younger, I used to be like basketball used to affect me off the court when I was younger.
Hmm.
Because I had that sense of just paranoia of trying to make it, trying to get to my goal. So now I'm a little bit more relaxed being 32. But some of my best times was my years at Partizan, just in terms of off the court. Like that second year when it was me, Zach, Matthias, Dante, Yam, Danilo, James, like that crew right there, like we did everything together. Like Tristan, Trifo, like we did everything together. Like so
Mhm.
that was probably one of my best times off the court because we was like a real family for real, So like, and even still now, we all still talk to one another. So um, I'll probably say that year for sure. I think that was my seventh year as a professional.
Yeah.
What is something that you were able to do in Belgrade with those guys that year that
Mm.
someone from back home would go, nah, Kevin didn't do that. Like, or just something that the boys back home would have never experienced because they've never been to
So,
Belgrade.
so a lot of times, so a lot of times on many teams, you may not go out with the entire team. And when I mean the entire team, I'm talking about all 12 guys, 13, 14 guys. Like it was moments we did that where we all went out together. Like sometimes you'll see one or two. This time we all went to dinner, all 14 of us. We
Mhm.
all did something that in which I don't like to do that, but because bro like to do it, we just go and join them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
but that's how close we were. Like we'll play video games together with some of the guys that play Call of Duty, all type of stuff. So, but yeah, that was pretty much that.
Yeah, that team was special, and looking back at it, doesn't it's not surprising that the chemistry was just so good in that team. I mean, it
Yeah.
was. Kevin, I told you in the past, like I have two daughters, and I never seen them more excited about a team that was the Partizan team that year. It was like we would get like locked in. Like my girls, they watch basketball and they play basketball, but when Partizan was on that year, it was like a religion. It was like we're watching that.
Mm.
so,
Nah,
so
it was,
it's not surprising. It's not surprising that you guys had a lot of success, obviously, because it comes from chemistry, and it's nothing you can force. It's just sometimes you click.
we was together our first year together. So
Hmm.
the first year, remember, we was Euro Cup.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah,
second year, we went to Euroleague. So
yeah,
that first year, we was all together. Alexa, Smiley, we was all
yeah.
together that first year. So then that second year, we knew the system, we knew what Jago wanted, we knew everything for the most part. So we kind of just tweaked some things, and mind you, we started off the season slow that year too.
Hmm.
All the season,
I remember.
and then once we hit the switch, it was over.
Awesome.
Well, Kevin, listen, we appreciate you taking the time. It's been a pleasure to get to hear some of the background and congratulations. One of the reasons why I love doing this is because I don't think people appreciate just what it takes to carve out a career in EuroLeague
Yeah.
as an American or for anyone, but making the cultural jump and the grind that is involved and all the success that you've had, it deserves to be recognized. So we appreciate you taking the time to allow us to do that.
Man, appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right.
Karen.
I don't know how you got in because you didn't get into the show in the normal way. So you're going to have to sign off because I can't do it from here. I don't even know how you got here.
I honestly exit screen, so I'm good. I could
Oh,
exit
All
out.
right. Thanks, Kevin.
okay.
Good luck.
We'll see
Problem.
you, Kevin.
All
Thank
right.
you,
All
brother.
right. Take care.
Oh, you gotta love our technology. We'll figure it out as we go. But man, I'm glad that he brought up like the path that he's taken,
Yeah.
and I just have so much respect for guys who do it the way that he's done it, because it's a true love of the game and a desire. Like I can be a pro, but it's going to take an extra effort to be able to do it, and obviously he's done that to the nth degree.
Yeah, he's currently definitely one of the most respected players in the league, especially as an American who, as we heard, has made his way up through different levels of European basketball, and now he's playing for powerhouse in Barcelona as one of the main players. And I mean, those are the stories, those are the success stories that are in this league. And like you said, Rick, there's many. There'll be many players just as talented, maybe more talented than Kevin, who haven't made it for whatever reason. So it's a very kind of a niche path on how you gotta approach being a professional basketball player in Europe in order to make it to the highest level. And Kevin definitely did.
Yeah, I don't know that you went through this, but he obviously did. But maybe you can speak to it in terms of what it's like when you're starting out in Poland and you're starting out in places that aren't at the top of the European basketball scene, and you're trying to make your way to playing in Euroleague. What's that challenge like?
I mean, first of all, I want to say I have a tons of respect for players like Kevin, or similar players to the players that had similar path than Kevin. Why? Because they played at one of the best colleges in the States, probably in front of 20,000 people, right? You play to win the SEC, to win the championship, and then you get opportunity to play for a smaller team in Europe, maybe in front of 2,000-3,000 people. Maybe if you're lucky, right? Because you got to build up your name. Not everybody comes in as a Real Madrid player or Panathinaikos player. Some do, but many don't. And I can't honestly, imagine the drop in the expectation you have when you're playing this and then going to that, and you have to make your career basically starting from zero, because realistically, fans or people in general don't know majority of these players who come, unless you're being, best college player, which that means you're going to go to the NBA, or if you had NBA career for 3, 4, 5, 10 years and they come to EuroLeague. Otherwise, people won't know who you are. So you really have to build up your name. And it's not easy. It's not easy, because I can totally see some of the players halfway through just simply giving up and saying, hey, this is not for me, or getting demotivated or discouraged, So
Sure.
That's why I think for those guys that made it, this really has a lot of value. Like, I went through the ranks, I built it up. And like Kevin said, I've done it over and over again in my life in general. And, that's why he is where he is.
And you mentioned when you get to a point where, or it maybe happens later than people think, where you give up the idea of, let me see if I can make my way back or into the NBA. What does that do for you when you come to that sort of resolution to say, this is where I'm going to play the rest of my career?
I mean, it depends, I think, from person to person on what the NBA as the highest goal means for you. I mean, some players, and we've seen that, have given up on that dream early on, or not even, I wouldn't call it a dream, but that option early on, just because they were super satisfied with the way things are in Europe or in EuroLeague. Or some players never really tried it. Like, we had guys who've been from Europe, who've been drafted first round or maybe early second, who just never decided to go over there because they had success in EuroLeague, because they probably made enough money and they felt enough, comfortable enough to where they are. I mean, for me personally, I did try late into my career to go back, and I did have some opportunities, and I was a little bit unlucky, and I don't have to go into details now on when, how, maybe some other day. But it wasn't like I was completely disappointed when that NBA option shut down, because there's still high-level EuroLeague competition that, if you're part of that, like, it will satisfy your appetite to compete. Maybe not totally financially to what you could get in the NBA.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're going to be well off just regardless. And you're going to play in some of the best, in the best competition that you can see, in some of the best organized clubs that you can imagine.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to a guy who is in the NBA, but at one point there was some talk about maybe the NBA is not for him, and that's Lauri Markkanen, who started out with Chicago. I saw a lot of him there, and there was questions whether he could live up to what expectations were. And since he's been in Utah, it's been a different thing. I mean, he got traded from Chicago to Cleveland. People thought maybe that was the last stop for him, and he was going back to Europe. Obviously, things have changed, and now we have among, I think it's the top 7 scorers in the NBA. 5 of them are internationals, and one of them is Lowry, averaging over 30 points a game and really keeping the Utah Jazz afloat right now. And obviously we both know, we watched him in Eurobasket, had a great Eurobasket over the summer.
Amazing.
Right? It's not the first time. I feel like we've watched him grow and develop there, or take a step there and then take a step in the NBA. But I'm curious, because you've experienced this, what is it about playing in Eurobasket and having success there that changes the mindset or the perspective of a player or the confidence? Like, what's the effect that playing well overseas has on somebody and how they play in the NBA?
Yeah, I think it depends from player to player, depending on what kind of situation they're in the previous season. You know, you can have player that hasn't played a lot, but sees national team, besides the being proud to represent the country, but he sees the national team opportunity to kind of come back, right? To regain the game shape, if you want to call it like this. You know, there's some players who have great NBA season and just kind of, they kind of flying, because they got this wind in their back because how great the season was, and they translate that to national team, and they basically start, if you want to call it, dominating at a Eurobasket or World Championship scene. But on the other hand, there's also players who maybe only function well with national teams, or vice versa, who don't function well with national teams. So it's all sorts of things. And I think with Laurie, I think it's kind of, building up his career when he's going from good to better to now great. And I think the national team in the summer only helps him to maybe, it's like a boost almost to, maybe try out some new things on the court, maybe, elevate his confidence even more. Because, playing for national team, especially having success with the national team, is a huge confidence booster. I mean, you have the whole country watching you, and if you have success there, I mean, you do feel great as a player going into the season if you had a great summer behind you. That's for sure.
You know what we have to do is we have to get somebody on from the NBA to talk about whether their eyes are opened by a player and how they play for their national team or overseas, because there's Lowry's also benefited from they've run their offense a little bit different. They've tried to put him in positions to succeed, and I don't know that necessarily happened in Chicago. We've talked about it. Like, a lot of it for the majority of players in the NBA isn't whether you have the talent; it's whether you're in the right place and given the right role to succeed. And I feel like that's at least part of the story for Lowry.
No, for sure. For him and for many, many others. We see that over and over again, where players in one team don't function well. And basically a week later, just because of the trade or whatever, or an injury, they all of a sudden start to shine. And you hit it right on the spot, Rick. You're right. The majority of the players in the NBA, it's not about the talent so much. It's about the right opportunity and the right fit.
Yeah. With Lowry in particular, and I'm wondering, when you're accomplished overseas and you're an international player coming into the NBA, and then you're asked to play a role that's not necessarily comfortable or where you're not featured, how do you battle not letting that creep into your perspective of who you are in the NBA and sort of maintain that, like, you know what, I'm bigger and better than they think I am. And you still, you want to prove your worth. You want to keep your spot. You want to do what you're being asked to do. But at the same time, you don't want necessarily that to define who you are if you think that you can be more than that.
Yeah. I think, it's definitely, I think this part is difficult for me to speak for others. I think for me, was or would be just to keep your head down and keep working and waiting for your opportunity, because that's the only thing you can really do. I mean, as soon as you start going into complaining or going against the team, against the coach. Like rarely, if ever, this turns out good for the player, unless you want to force a trade or something like this. But at that point, you got to be already a big name to be able to do that. So, the more focused you can be on remaining in shape and remaining, ready, the better off you are, because it's going to either happen with that team that you're on, or, with the, like I said before, with a trade or with an injury or with a change or whatever. And I've seen examples before, not just with international players, but in general, of players who have not been ready, who haven't played, who basically, I wouldn't say gave up, but didn't care. And when the opportunity came, they didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen that on different teams, and it's difficult to watch because that player has talent, that he could make it, and he wasted his opportunity. And that's why for me it was always like, keep your head down and stay ready. And when the opportunity comes, you got to produce.
So one last thing, you and Zaza Pachulia was our guest in our previous episode, and you guys talked about the brotherhood of international players, particularly in the NBA. This struck me watching the Lakers and the Jazz play, and watching Luka Doncic and Lauri Markkanen go against each other, and having watched them in Eurobasket go against each other. What's it like when you're part of that brotherhood and you're in the NBA? What's the difference between competing against each other overseas for your national teams and then going up against each other in the NBA?
Yeah, I think when it comes to this brotherhood thing, what me and Zaza were trying to say, I mean, first of all, it's not like all the international players are just best friends with everybody, right? Sure. I mean, for us, and I'm sure for Luka and for players from like the ex-Yugoslavia, or more like a Balkan region, like that's the real brotherhood. Because I remember when I went to the NBA, like I didn't know Peja Stojakovic or Vlade Divac or those guys before, but when I started playing there, like at games, like we would start talking, we would start saying hi to each other, and they would ask me how I'm doing, all these things. And it felt like so real and surreal at the same time. And that's what we're talking about. Like you start building these friendships inside of NBA games because you come from the same region or from the similar background and stuff like that. So, but I think one thing that does happen, it happened to me as well, is when you play in the summer against a certain player, against a certain player on a different national team, and you win or lose, you do remember that when you see them in the NBA. Like that even if you don't say it, you're like, hey, we got you in the summer, right? Or vice versa. And depends on the level of the game or how important the game was in the summer, but it can hurt or it can feel great depending on the summer result, right? So that's something that international players have, because a lot of times they do compete in the off season, whereas American players don't, right? And you kind of bring that with you into the NBA season.
How much for the players from the Balkan region is the fact that you all went through the reorganization and all the hardship and the challenges that came with that kind of deepens that brotherhood? Like you've all grown up and become successful under the same conditions? Or is it just like region and cultural connection? How much is it the history of that region that deepens that connection?
I think now probably less, but I want to say maybe 20 years ago, like when I was with the Nets, it was one particular situation, because I think it was the first time, or maybe the only time, I would have to make a research, where we had a Slovenian, Serbian, and a Croat on the team. So it was me, Zoran Planinic, and Nenad Krstić, right? So that was like 10 years plus after the war in Yugoslavia, right? And it was unique, it was special, but to be honest, we never thought about it in a negative way. Like we were best friends on the team, just because we had this similar background. So I think now, being so far removed from the situation in the 90s in Yugoslavia, I think the players don't really look into it as much, and I think they're just good friends, and they just relate because they come from similar backgrounds, not because there was the war and all the situation in the 90s.
Right. Well, we mentioned it earlier when we had Kevin on. Kevin participated in the game of the week, the Barca Efes game. 74-73, I think, was the final score. Efes winning on a last second free throws.
Yeah.
With a foul at the rim.
Yeah.
Our boy Toko, I think Shengelia, who we discussed with Zaza Pachulia, was in on that play. I don't know if the foul was called on him. I can't recall now, but he was right there when it went down. What made that game of particular interest for you?
I mean, first of all, it was the first game of the new head coach for FC Barcelona, Xavi Pascual, who I played for when I was in Barca, and who I deeply respect and believe he's one of the best coaches in Europe. But the second also is just because of both teams having being so talented, and that win really could propel one or the other team further, because the high significance of this game. On one hand you had some injuries. Shane Larkin didn't play, Rodrigo Bobois didn't play, and a couple of other players that have been out for FS, and FS has been dealing with injuries quite a bit. But on the other, FC Barcelona, like, hungry for another win. Like, they've been putting their season back on track, and they've been playing really good basketball lately. And they were down at some point, then they were up. It seems like they're going to win the game already, and FS was able to turn it around. And I think it was another game that was basically a nail biter, like you guys say in the States, right? So very, very tough game that FS played at home, and was able to protect its home turf and got the win.
Yeah, I mean, Barca early on looked like this game was theirs. They were rolling, right? I think Jan Vesely in particular, but just had it going.
Dominating.
And I wonder, with the pressure that we talk about in EuroLeague, and you have a brand new coach come in, and the difference between winning that game and losing that game for the new voice and for the change. I have to think that that's like the look of shock on the new coach's face said volumes, because of what it would have meant if they had won that game rather than lost it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have to say, like, FS is an extremely talented team and has a great coach in Igor Kokoschko, who's a former NBA coach.
Yep.
And I think they still haven't shown the ability as a team that they will probably in the second part of the season. But I will say this, about Barca. I think they were, like you said, the right word, shocked. I think they had this game won, and you want to, the new coach comes in, is a player. You could see some of the guys putting in extra effort. You want to show off. Like, when a new coach comes in, you want to show that you can maintain your minutes or gain your minutes or whatever it is. And it looked like it's gonna go their way. And then unfortunately, a couple of errors down the stretch, and last second free throws sealed the deal for FS. But another great game that was really fun to watch. Not the only game that was fun this week, I have to say. There were many. It was difficult to choose which one we focus on.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go back and watch a couple of them, because that's the beauty of having EuroLeague TV, is that you can find the result and go back and say, oh, you know what, that was one that I should have picked up on.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, I'm just wondering, with this season, it feels more competitive than ever in terms of just how close it is, and no one's really separating. And it feels like everybody, I don't even want to say they're shocking losses, but it feels like there's been so many surprise results to this point. Is this for someone who's paying closer attention than ever, is there anything that's different, or is there something unique about what we're seeing so far this season?
You know what, Rick? To be completely honest, we've said that this is the most competitive season for the last 5 years. We've been saying that every year.
Every year more competitive.
I'm not even joking. Like, not just myself, like, people have said that, like, this is even more competitive. It's even more competitive. And I think this year is about the talent in EuroLeague, or let's say the talent, or the level of players have moved around a little bit in the summer. So now you have 20 teams this year in the league. Whereas league, used to be some years ago 16, then it grew up to 18. Now you have the first year of 20. And I think it's the only league in basketball. There might be some other that I don't know at the lower levels, but there's the only, let's say, high professional league that has 20 teams in the league, and there's like one standings. So there's no groups.
Yeah.
There's no
there's no divisions. There's no
divisions. There's like
conferences.
20 teams.
Yeah.
20 teams, right? And let's go, right? So
Yeah.
that's why you see this, that a team 16 right now could definitely beat team number 2. Team 3 could lose against team 15.
Right.
It's just that competitive and that unpredictable. And I think that's what makes it so special. Now, big part of it, I think is going to play a huge role is injuries. And that's something that we're going to have to look into very closely to see how we can reduce that. It's not just Euroleague. I see it the same in the NBA, probably all-time high in terms of injuries and types of injuries that we had. And we discussed this in the past. And that could determine who makes it in what shape as a team into the postseason.
Yeah.
But it's been as competitive as we've ever seen, no doubt.
All right. Well, look forward to continuing watching all of this and bringing it to all of you out there. Boki, once again, I'm looking forward. We'll put it out on social media. Boki and I are actually going to cross paths and dial up Full Court Passport even further. So, my friend, it's good seeing you here, and I will see you in person in a day or so.
See you soon.